Have you ever wondered what makes up every living organism on this planet? The answer is cells, but did you know there are two primary types of cell? Welcome to a fascinating journey into the microscopic world that resides within every living thing.
This is the realm of the cell, the smallest unit of life that can replicate independently. Cells are the building blocks of life, the fundamental units that make up our bodies, the trees in the forest, the fish in the sea, and even the bacteria that live in your gut. They are the smallest units capable of performing all the functions necessary for life. There are two primary types of cells we'll be exploring today: prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. These two types of cells differ in many ways, from their size and structure to the ways they reproduce. Prokaryotic cells are the more ancient of the two types, having been around for billions of years. These cells have no nucleus and are generally smaller than their eukaryotic counterparts. They include single-celled microorganisms like bacteria and archaea. On the other hand, eukaryotic cells have a true nucleus that houses their genetic material. These cells are larger and more complex than prokaryotic cells. They include a broad range of organisms, from plants and fungi to animals and protozoans. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the differences between these two types of cells. We'll explore their structures, how they reproduce, and the unique characteristics that set them apart. Understanding the differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells can help us understand more about the diversity of life on Earth. It can also shed light on how cells function and interact with each other and their environment. So, buckle up and get ready for an exciting journey into the microscopic world of cells. From the tiniest bacteria to the largest animal, cells are the building blocks of life and hold the secrets to many of life's mysteries. Now that we have a basic understanding of what cells are, let's dive deeper into the fascinating world of prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Let's start with prokaryotic cells, the simpler of the two. Prokaryotic cells are a bit like the minimalists of the cellular world. They are single-celled microorganisms, keeping things simple and straightforward. Examples of these include bacteria, archaea, and cyanobacteria. One of the defining characteristics of prokaryotic cells is their lack of a nucleus. Instead of having a designated compartment housing their genetic material, like in a well-organized office, these cells have a region known as the nucleoid. Here, the genetic material is freely suspended, almost like an open-plan workspace. Now, you might be wondering, what is this genetic material made of? Well, in prokaryotic cells, the hereditary material can be either DNA or RNA. It's like having the option to write your notes either in pen or pencil, depending on what works best for the cell at the time. Let's talk about size. In the world of prokaryotes, small is beautiful. These cells typically range from 0.1 to 0.5 microns in diameter. That's microscopic. When it comes to reproduction, prokaryotes have a unique method. They generally reproduce by binary fission, which is a type of asexual reproduction. It's like making a photocopy of the cell. They also utilize a process known as conjugation. Now, this might be seen as the prokaryotic equivalent to sexual reproduction, but let's be clear, it's not sexual reproduction. It's more like sharing a piece of a recipe between two cells, adding a bit of diversity to their genetic pool. So there you have it. These are the key characteristics of prokaryotic cells: no nucleus, microscopic size, DNA or RNA as genetic material, and a unique method of reproduction. Prokaryotic cells, while simpler, are incredibly fascinating in their own right. But how do they compare to their counterparts? Stay tuned as we delve into the world of eukaryotic cells. Now, let's explore the more complex world of eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells are like small, intricate cities, bustling with activity and filled with various structures, each with its own specialized function. The most defining characteristic of these cells is the presence of a true nucleus, a compartment within the cell that houses the genetic material safely enclosed within a double-layered nuclear envelope. This is a stark contrast to the free-floating genetic material found in the nucleoid region of prokaryotic cells. Size does matter. At least when it comes to cells, eukaryotic cells are substantially larger than their prokaryotic counterparts, typically ranging between 10 to 100 micrometers in diameter. This added space allows for a greater diversity of structures and functions within the cell. Eukaryotic cells form the building blocks of an incredibly diverse range of organisms, including plants, fungi, protozoans, and animals. Yes, even us humans are made up of trillions of these tiny, complex units. The plasma membrane of a eukaryotic cell is much like a gatekeeper or a bouncer at a club. It regulates the in- and outflow of nutrients and electrolytes, ensuring the cell gets what it needs and keeps out what it doesn't. Additionally, this membrane plays a crucial role in cell-to-cell communication, much like a switchboard operator connecting calls. When it comes to reproduction, eukaryotic cells have options. They can reproduce both sexually and asexually, adding to their versatility. Sexual reproduction involves the merging of genetic material from two parent cells to produce offspring that are genetically unique. Asexual reproduction, on the other hand, produces identical copies of the parent cell, a process known as mitosis. Eukaryotic cells, with their added complexity, play a vital role in the world as we know it. But how do they stack up against prokaryotic cells? We've looked at prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells separately, but how do they compare when put side by side? Starting with the basics, one fundamental difference is the presence of a true nucleus. Eukaryotic cells are characterized by a true nucleus which houses their genetic material. This is kept separate from the rest of the cell by a nuclear envelope. On the other hand, prokaryotic cells have no such nucleus. In prokaryotes, like bacteria, the genetic material is freely suspended in a region called the nucleoid. The size of these cells also varies significantly. Prokaryotic cells are generally smaller, ranging from 0.1 to 0.5 micrometers in diameter. Conversely, eukaryotic cells are larger, typically between 10 to 100 micrometers. In terms of the organisms they make up, prokaryotic cells are single-celled microorganisms. These include entities like archaea, bacteria, and cyanobacteria. Eukaryotic cells, however, are found in more complex organisms, like plants, fungi, protozoans, and animals. Another major difference lies in the way these cells reproduce. Prokaryotes generally reproduce through a process known as binary fission, a form of asexual reproduction. They can also use a method called conjugation, which is similar to, but not exactly, sexual reproduction. Eukaryotic cells, on the other hand, can reproduce both sexually and asexually. The plasma membrane in eukaryotic cells plays a critical role in regulating the transport of nutrients and electrolytes in and out of the cell, as well as facilitating cell-to-cell communication. While prokaryotic cells also have a plasma membrane, it lacks the complexity and functionality seen in eukaryotic cells. Even within eukaryotic cells, there are variations. For instance, plant cells contain chloroplasts, central vacuoles, and other plastids, while animal cells do not. These structures allow plant cells to carry out photosynthesis and store large amounts of water, features that animal cells lack. Despite all these differences, there are also similarities. For instance, both prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells can carry DNA or RNA as their genetic material. Both types of cells also have a cell membrane and cytoplasm. And of course, both types of cells play crucial roles in supporting life on Earth. Understanding these similarities and differences is key to understanding the diversity of life on our planet. It helps us appreciate how life can adapt and evolve, from the simplest bacteria to the most complex organisms. While prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells are fundamentally different, they both contribute to the incredible diversity of life on Earth. We've learned a lot today about the two primary types of cells. We delved into the world of prokaryotic cells, those fascinating single-celled microorganisms that lack a true nucleus. Instead, they have a region known as the nucleoid, where their genetic material, which can be DNA or RNA, is freely suspended. We also discovered that they reproduce through binary fission and conjugation, a process often seen as their version of sexual reproduction. Then we turned our attention to eukaryotic cells, characterized by their true nucleus and larger size. These cells, found in plants, fungi, protozoans, and animals, boast a plasma membrane that oversees the transport of nutrients and electrolytes, as well as cell-to-cell communication. They reproduce both sexually and asexually, and there are notable differences between plant and animal cells. We've explored these two cell types, understanding their differences and the implications of these differences. While cells may be microscopic, their impact is anything but. They truly are the building blocks of life.